My name is Kevin Leonard and I joined TREIA in June of this year. With us not being able to meet in person, I thought I would introduce myself with a member showcase for you. My background is in sales for an IT hardware leasing company, which I've been doing for about 10 years. The reason I joined TREIA is I'd like to accomplish my goal of buying, rehabbing, and selling or renting a property. The problem I'm currently having though is closing that first deal. And I think it's due to the fact I'm overthinking the entire process. Mainly how to work with lenders and finalize the paperwork on a property itself. I'm looking for a seasoned investor who is currently going through a flip or rehab on a property and will allow me to simply shadow them throughout the whole process. I can also help you by managing vendors, paperwork, and even hands-on rehab, essentially anything that would help your project move faster. I'd be forever grateful for your assistance to help me through the process so I can close my first deal myself. You can call or text me at 919-332-3662 or email me at gtleonard@gmail.com, which is also below. Thank you.
Is that what it takes? It takes everything. It costs us so real. This Is that what it takes? It takes everything. It costs us all we have. This Is that what it takes? It takes everything. It costs us all we have. This love. This love. This
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to TREIA North. Have a great program for you tonight. But first, of course, our obligatory announcements. As you know, because we tell you every single meeting, we're still hoping and trying to get back in person. And believe it or not, we're slowly and surely getting there a little bit at a time. Until then, networking is taking place in a couple of ways. One of which is you can make a member spotlight video like the one you just saw. And we are also having members do an introduction on our meetings, and we'd love to have you do one tonight. So if you would like to be next, send me a note in the chat. If not, we'll pick on someone. It's very quick and short, and you don't have to make it up. We'll send you questions, and all you have to do is answer them 60 seconds or less. So any volunteers? Let's see. I don't have anything in the chat. Other ways. So we are, trying to think of as many creative ways as we can to get people talking and getting to know each other. And one of those is we ask you, please put your cameras on here, because if you're, you join and you come to every meeting and we just see your black screen, when we get back in person, we're not going to know you, any more than we would anyone else who just walked in the door. So it's a small thing, but it's actually really important. So let us see you, and still waiting for a note in the chat, because I'm going to pick on someone. Okay, we also have our Facebook networking group, Triangle Real Estate Investors Association networking group. That's very active, so please join us there. In December, we are not able to have our Christmas party, as you all know, if you've been there for any length of time. I know it's super fun. We get together and we have a nice dinner. Elisa Hardy just volunteered. Great, thanks, Elisa. And we have fun prizes and a money pit where you get in and money blows around and you grab it. So there's no way we can replicate that, but we are working on it, and we're coming up with ideas for something fun and cool things in December. That's going to be our gift to you, and we'll announce soon as soon as we figure it out. So Leslie, sorry, is going to tell you what we got upcoming.
Yeah, on the calendar, of course, this being the busy week, with 4 meetings scheduled, tonight being with Mr. Investor, Real Estate Investor Extraordinaire, Lionel Finley, who is a fabulous speaker. So pay attention to him. He's got a lot of nuggets, Tomorrow night, we're going to do something a little different. This is for those of you who are not quite familiar with the terminology of the real estate investor and how to talk the talk. If you're going to have conversations with potential partners, investing partners, or money lenders, you need to know this type of terminology. You need to get familiar with it. You need to be able to speak it and know if somebody says it to you, what it means, and don't just stand there with a blank look on your face. Anyway, tomorrow night, we are going to have a little bit of a quiz. So if you get on the meeting tomorrow night, we're going to have questions and answers, and we'll just see who knows what, okay? But you need to get on the meeting tomorrow night. And then, of course, for Thursday night, we're all going to Fayetteville with Cheryl. And Cheryl is going to talk to how you can become the bank with seller financing. And once again, Cheryl has just got so many good ideas and so much information. She's a must-see. And Friday, experienced investors at 12:30. Our one of 2 day meetings that we still have going is with Meilani, and she's going to have a gentleman on that is going to let you know easy peasy ways to fix your credit, because we all need credit to get ahead, especially with investing. People, yes, your work is important, your reputation is important, but credit is right up there. So be there on Friday. And then, of course, we're going into next week with the main meeting, and we're going to have, what's her name? Forgotten her name. Christy, who is going to help us all get copious amounts of leads, because that's what we're all looking for right now. Everybody's having a hard time finding deals, sourcing deals. We need to find leads. And Miss Christy, let me see here. Christy King apparently lives on her boat in Florida, and she's going to let us know how to get unlimited amount of leads. So everybody can tune in to that meeting. It's also our annual business meeting, so you don't want to miss that.
And supposedly she was the inventor of the yellow letters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Supposedly that's her claim to fame. So
Okay, there you go.
she's got it going on.
She does. She does. So anyway, that's probably why she's living on a big ass sailboat. Anyway, and yeah, everybody, we need you to get on the business meeting. It's important next week, and then for the rest of the month, keep checking back on the calendar. Alrighty, Miss Jackie.
Just a welcome to all of our members tonight, especially our new members. Thank you to Nathaniel and Jeff and Alicia and Enrique and anybody that has turned their camera on. This is a business that is about networking. So don't be afraid to get your face out there. It'll really, really make it easier when we get to in-person networking meetings. And my friendly reminder, I know I've said this at the beginning of a lot of meetings over the last couple of weeks, but 2021 January is around the corner. The time to plan your objectives is now. Don't let January get here and you start scrambling with, oh, what do I want to achieve this year? Time to put a strategy in place is now so that you can hit the ground running to meet those objectives. So start putting pen to paper, guys, if you haven't done it already. That's it. Super excited about tonight. Lionel is amazing. And you guys are really lucky. We're all very lucky that he's giving up his time tonight. So I'm gonna turn it over to Karen, and then we'll let us.
First, we're gonna hear from Elisa.
Oh, we met.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, hi, my name is Alicia Hardy, and I have been a member of TREIA off and on. I was a member of TREIA years ago and the membership chair when we had 53 members, and I was working a full-time job. I was membership chair for 2 years in the early 2000s. And when I first got involved with the real estate, I thought I was ready when I first became a member of the organization. But by getting out and about talking with people and meeting in particular a banker member of TREIA, she schooled me on some things that you need to have a certain amount of reserves. She was like, well, you can go ahead on and invest in real estate, but it would behoove you and be wise. And she gave me some pointers, about 5 or 6 different pointers about cash flow and renting out houses. So with the information that she gave me, it took me a little bit longer to get involved in investing in real estate. So I did get involved eventually. It took me 2 years because she went over the cash reserves. You need to make sure you have 6 to 8 months of cash reserves for each property that you are planning to get. So I did exactly what she said do. So while I was working in the technology arena, I did eventually rehab maybe one house every year and get it under management and get it rented out. And so that's what I did. And then I did become sick and have several lot of back surgeries with complications. And so that got me out of the arena, and my investment properties were supposed to be for my retirement. But I did have to use my investment properties that I had done for early retirement, being out of the workforce. So I'm just now getting back involved in real estate after being gone. I think it's been over 8 or 10 years. And so I don't have the backing of my full-time employment professional at this point. They do not, for the arena that I have, a world I've worked in, the technology and the different stuff like network engineering and network administration and data analysts, They don't have part-time professional positions. So what I'm doing right now, I am studying creative financing, the creative financing world, and learn about all of these different marketing techniques because I never have been involved in real estate at this type of entry point. So that's what I'm up to now. And my email address is Zara, ZARA group2, GROUP, the number 2 at gmail.com. And I can be reached by telephone at 919-345-3469.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and welcome back. We are certainly glad to have you. Karen, it's all you.
Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday evening, TREIA North. We've got something very exciting planned for us tonight. I know that one of the very difficult things about flipping houses is it's very easy to just hit the ground running and just keep going. But if you don't cross your T's and dot your I's and do what is required, you can lose your pens. So it's very important to do things correctly. And this is why we've got this sea of minds in TREIA that you can draw on, and Lionel Finley being one of them. And tonight he's agreed to talk to us about what to do and what not to do when hiring and firing and processes, etc. He's very experienced. He started part-time real estate investing in 2005. He's now been full-time since 2012. He's the president and the managing partner of Fortified Solutions. He provides services to federal, state, and local government, and specializing in, amongst other things, construction. He's the broker in charge of the Carolina agency, and he speaks to a lot of real estate investors, and he coaches real estate investors, as far as I understand. So thank you very much, Lionel, for joining us tonight. And we look forward to hearing from you at the end. I think let him speak, say what he has to say, put your questions. If you've got anything urgent, then we can listen to it. In the meantime, put your questions in the chat bar, and we can address those at the end, and then you can answer all your questions. So take it away, Lionel.
All right. Thanks, Karen. I appreciate it. And I know Leslie and Jackie, you guys sort of set me up, because I guess when you're in person, it's a little different because you can interact with the audience, and then now on Zoom, I can't really interact as much. So, but it's what we have to deal with right now, right? So, but I appreciate it. So I'll share my screen here. Share my screen here in a sec. All right, I'm assuming everyone can see that.
Good.
All right, good. So, so this, of course, was a topic. So I tried to make it a little more, I guess, so you guys can see it without just putting just a plain old find elusive contractor. But I wanted to add that in a little bit. And if there's any issues, please let me know, because I know I keep getting this message over here that that the internet's unstable, and I switched back and forth a couple times between that and my hotspot. Let's see, sharing poll.
We're hearing you okay right now, Lionel, so
Okay, got you.
run
All
with
right,
it.
cool. So we'll go ahead and get into it and get started. And I'll just go over just my background here, so you guys can take a look. So Karen went over it a little bit as far as myself and what I've done, and I don't like to read to folks, but yeah, if you're in one of my live presentations, like I typically don't read, I just talk. I use bullet points and I talk, but I know it's a different format, and I like to engage the audience a little bit, but you know, it's a little hard with Zoom, and of course you guys have your camera on. But there's a couple times in here where I will ask for you to type some stuff in the chat, so you can take a look and just give me a little help. Even though I know the answer, I want you guys to be a little interactive. So we'll go through that a little bit. But you can see my focus areas here. You know, rehab, the value adds is, because I'm a licensed general contractor, what I typically do is I will secure properties for rehab. A lot of investors may turn them down. Probably 90% of investors turn them down because they don't fit with the numbers. However, with myself, I make the numbers fit, because if I can add an addition onto it, well, guess what? Now I just maximize how much I can make on the property, because I can look at what the potential ARV is going to be by adding an addition to it. So a lot of properties that most investors will turn away, I'll actually pick it up because I'm a licensed general contractor. Of course, new construction, wholesaling not as much anymore. It's, wholesaling just, 2 or 3 here, but they're like big wholesale deals. I got one coming up that's probably close to 200, just because of where it's located downtown. You're not making any more dirt, right? So it's downtown. And then commercial, I put other activities because it's not really like commercial, like it's not commercial where it's apartments. Is more of commercial of ground and what I can do to turn a property, say that it's a old vacant Kmart or something like that, that I can turn into something else. So that's what I'm looking at these days, and just to find those type of properties that aren't like $3 or $4 million. If you know the one over, I think in Garner, I think they won like $3 or $4 million for that thing. It's been sitting there for years. But this is our overview. Some of the things we're going to go over, and you could take a look. The key being, of course, everything's important, but there's 6 critical documents. So I'm going in order as what's listed here on the overview. And like I said, if you have any questions, just if you could hold them till the end, and then we'll get to them, and I may just answer the question that you have. So just be patient with me, and we'll get to those at the end. All right, so estimating and analyzing. So if you could put in the chat, and I'd like to see what everyone, never mind, I hit the button. So I want to know where you start, because whenever you estimate or analyze a property, it's typically where do you first start when you're looking at a property, or potentially a property that comes your way. Most of you probably would have said outside, maybe the inside, but typically I start with my desktop, and I mean desktop computer. And so I know some of, like Leslie and Jackie, we've studied like the same type of stuff in another program. So I know they go to the desktop first, but typically that's like the first thing you should do. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because even though we're going to lead into the contracting, it's very important that you understand this, because if you don't know your numbers, then of course, if you listen to Shark Tank, right, you can take from what they say. If you don't know your numbers, then you're in trouble. So you don't have to be an exact of what it's going to, for you to know exactly what it's going to cost to rehab that property. But you want to be in the ballpark, because if you're at $40,000 and your contractor is at $90,000, there's a problem. And the problem is likely not you, it's the contractor, right? So you need to have a good general idea of what it's going to cost before reaching out to a contractor, before wasting time. And what I mean by wasting time is that you don't even have to leave your house. So just say if a property came across my desk and that property was, the seller wanted 150 desktop research, and I could do that with Zillow or Realtor.com. I do a little research and find out that the ARV or what stuff is selling for is $200,000. And if I have a hard money lender, do you think I'm leaving my house? No, because the numbers don't work, right? So do a little desktop first before you even think about reaching out to a contractor. And then if it's potentially that it might work, then you want to go to that house, and then you want to start with the outside, like I have here, right? You want to do a little bit of research yourself, and then venture out to the property and start with the outside. And the reason why I have the outside is critical that you start with the outside, because it's for a lot of different reasons. So if you could, in the chat, I want to know what you guys think, where you should start when you're outside the house was the first things that you should look at. And I'm looking for a bunch of things, but I'm looking for 2 that are very important, at least important to me, of what I look for. So if you could take about 20 to 30 seconds.
Some of the chats are coming to me. If y'all remember to click to everyone so everyone can see them, but I'll read the ones that are coming to me. Lionel Sheila Hatcher says foundation. Cat O'Hannigan says foundation, roof. All the other ones you should be able to see.
Yeah, I can't see on my end for some reason, but
Okay, I'll just read them all to you then. Ron Rice, roof and foundation. Michael Scheidel, foundation and roof. Moni Peebles, foundation, roof. Nathaniel Mott, HVAC. Moni Peebles, crawl space, if any.
gotcha. Okay, so all the normal suspects. Nathaniel, I think you said Nathaniel. I think he said HVAC, which is one of the ones I was looking for, which is very important because you want to be able to look at that date on the unit on the HVAC. So that's important. And one of the ones that no one ever says is the actual yard itself. And some of you may think I'm crazy for saying the yard, but there's a reason why I'm saying the yard, because everything I'm telling you is literally, I won't say that word, it's literally bit me in the butt more than once, right? So, and the reason why I say the yard is because when I first started, I picked up a house and I saw a puddle in the yard, right? And I'm just thinking, okay, whatever, it's just a little puddle in your yard. However, what I didn't do was I didn't go over and actually like do a little research on it and try to find out why, right? And what, if you know anything about plumbing and where you get your water from, right? You get it from the city, or if you have a well, whatever, but you get it from the city and you have a main line that runs from the street to your house. And guess where that main line was running, where that water was coming up out of the ground, right? So at the whole time while I'm just renovating this house, it just never dawned on me to actually go and take a look until our plumber came on site and we're getting ready to go through and do all the whole nine. And he even estimated, because at the time when he came by, it wasn't water there, right? And so come to find out that that was actually leaking. And even though we were still getting water to the house, just a small leak over time, right? It could have been catastrophic if I'd have sold the house, and that would have came back on me. So you want to look at everything, even though it's the freaking dirt. You would not believe some of the things that'll come back and bite you in the butt. And I got another story about a septic tank in it, so it doesn't, trust me, it doesn't end there. But you want to check everything. So of course the HVAC, but then also you want to look at that. All the other things we normally going to look at, but you want to look at those things sometimes that you don't think about, because when I talk about the HVAC, if you go inside of a house and the HVAC is working, it's nice in the summertime and it's cool, and you're like, oh, I'm going to keep this HVAC, no problems. You go outside, you take a look at the unit. Yeah, it looks a little old, right? You know, but you're like, hey, I'm going to keep it. It's working. But guess what? You got to sell that house. And especially in this market we're in right now, I'm here to tell you, it's not a lot of inventory, but buyers complain a lot, right? And so if you're going to put $100,000, $150,000 into a house, and maybe not that much, but if you're going to do all that, then 9 out of 10, you probably want to update the HVAC too, because I'll talk to you about a situation where I can tell you now. There's a situation where I did a house. I had a 13-year-old unit on a house that it actually worked pristine. I had my HVAC guy come over and take a look at it. He serviced it. It was good to go. I decided I was going to keep it. But what I did was I offered the buyers 2 years, and I paid for it. 2 years is what I paid for, because I'd rather pay almost $1,000 versus like $10,000, even though it was working good and I got a good report back from my HVAC guy, and it didn't look that old, even though it was 13 years. So I'd rather pay $1,000 than to pay $10,000. But there's no way you're going to get away with that with a 20-year-old unit, right? So rental property, I might leave it, but not for a flip. Inside. So of course, to go to inside, there's two things in red. What I want to say about the electrical, and I just gave a guy, he's doing a property in Oxford, I just gave him some advice. He's doing what he wants to do, and that's on him. But you'll go into some of these houses and you'll have an electric box where you'll see the actual fuses. And I'm 50 years old, so I can tell you that when I was growing up, I saw some of those fuses, right? The ones you screw in. There's still a lot of homes out there that have them in there, but I will tell you, if you're doing a flip, you gotta decide. Me personally, I rewire the whole house. I don't want to hear it on the back end when I go to sell the house. But you, as an investor, you have to look at your numbers, and I would tell you 9 out of 10 to replace it, but you have to make that decision yourself. Also, if you have a house that has those fuses, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have 2-prong outlet versus 3. The 3-prong outlets, the ones in the wall, that bottom one is normally the ground. And so when you have 2-prong, that means your house is not grounded or may not be grounded. And if you decide to keep it, you need to make sure the house is grounded. But I will tell you, buyers will complain like hell. If they got a good broker, they're going to do the same thing. So it costs you in the long run. Same thing with plumbing. You're doing a lot of these older homes in Raleigh. If you pick up some, you will find that they have galvanized piping. I know my plumber, we just replace it. We don't only deal with the headache. So you're going to pick up homes, a lot of older homes, they're going to have galvanized piping. Some of these homes may have PEX, which is it's a gray, it's like a polybutylene piping or whatever it's called, but we call it PVP, not PEX. But you can keep those. The key is that they have a copper ring around it. If they don't, then you want to replace it because it's going to crack on you and it's going to eventually it's just not going to hold up. Brokers and home inspectors, they write it up. They write it up. So just so you're aware of that, if you have that type of plumbing lines in your house, you may want to go ahead and replace it. And then all the other just normal things in there. So this is my question. Why should you as an investor estimate cost? Estimated cost, because it's like I told you earlier, if you don't, your contractor will. And if you can't check your contractor, then guess what? You're going to be paying out the wazoo for something that you're paying $100,000 for that you could likely get done for 60. So you want to double check. You also want to ask where they're getting their materials, right? So if you're like a real estate broker, if you know an architect or someone like that, there are a lot of places here that sell cabinets wholesale. So you want to always ask where they're getting the materials, because a lot of times contractors, they don't typically care where they're getting their materials sometimes when it's not on their dime. So you want to double check that, because you want to make sure and know where they're getting the materials. A lot of places, especially if you get an account, they'll be able to give you a discount. So always double check and always ask that question, where they're getting the materials. And at that point, you don't want the materials to be inferior either, because I was just talking earlier, you guys see this ceiling fan back here in the back. Like that ceiling fan probably locally would probably cost me like $300-400, but I got it on sale at Bill.com. I think I paid $150 for it. So, and that's 72 inches. So I know I'm not going to pay that cost on those Home Depot. So just check around yourself and just see what you can find. But always ask that question, where are they getting their materials? Where are they getting them? All right, permits and inspections. Oh, permitting, one of my biggest thorns in my side. So with permitting, anything 30K and above, you have to permit, right? And that includes like some of your specialty areas, because you may have a house where you may not be doing $30,000. You say, hey, I don't need a permit. But if you're doing any major electrical, plumbing, or HVAC type of work, you need a permit. If you're putting up a deck, I don't care if the deck costs $500, you got to have a permit, right? If somebody, for those of you who've been here for a while, there was a few years ago, the deck that collapsed over in Cary and killed some folks. I hate to be the person that actually installed that, right? So whenever you're putting up a deck, even if it's 2 feet off the ground, and Raleigh is freaking insane about this, freaking permit. One down on East Street last December, literally 24, 25 feet off the ground. They made me, we're getting ready to talk about surveys. They made me get a survey, because I do an impervious survey, even though the deck I put back on there was smaller than the one I took off, which was concrete, and for a shed that was in the back. So just rest assured that in the city of Raleigh and even Durham, pretty much all of them now, they're making you get surveys. So we're leading right into that, which is a good segue. And you can see the items that you'll need a survey for. I will tell you this, it's not your general contractor's responsibility to get a survey. If you got a good one, he'll recommend it that you do. But as an investor, it's probably one of the first things you should do, because you don't know if the last owner has something there that's encroaching on your neighbor or vice versa. So you always want to make sure you get a survey done. And I will tell you that as soon as you close, maybe even a little before that, you may want to contact the company to get a survey done, because folks on here that are flipping right now, and I'll guarantee you, they'll tell you they're probably waiting anywhere for 2 to 3 weeks to get a survey done. Before I could call my surveying company, Sullivan Surveying, and they could be out there the next day. And not anymore. It's 3 weeks just to get a survey. And not to mention, their prices have gone up like crazy. So just realize that when you're closing on something, you may want to go ahead and get in the queue. And if you don't close on it, fine, take your name off the list, but get in the queue early for surveys. And the reason why I bring up impervious is because in Raleigh comes up with all kind of, I want to curse, I'm trying to be professional. Raleigh comes with all kind of crap, right? To say you need a survey. So I'm doing a house right now on Wilson Street, right downtown. I put the permit in, the application in, and they're supposed to get back to you within 48 hours, right? A week later, I got to contact them. Hey, what's the deal with my permit? Oh, you need a survey because of blah, 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 blah. And then the homeowner didn't do it. So I'm like, okay, got it. We need a survey. I contact my guys like 3 weeks. So I contacted Raleigh. I said, let me tell you what, take the HVAC off my application because I want this to go through. So it's one of those little ninja tricks with Raleigh, right? I said, take the HVAC off my permit. So they took the HVAC off my permit. 2 days later, I had my permit. And so now I'm waiting on the survey. And then once I get the survey done, then I will go ahead and file for my HVAC. So don't necessarily think you have to wait like forever to get a permit because Raleigh's saying you need a survey, you don't have it. Just whatever they're asking you to have a survey for, just take it off your application. Once your survey comes in, then submit a second application. Yes, you'll have another fee, right? But if you have holding costs, you're not waiting around for a month or two because literally Raleigh had me waiting that long. And now I'm waiting for a permit. So it's one of those ninja things like, you know what? Fine, screw them. I'll take it off. I'll submit it, get approved, and then I'll submit the other one when my survey comes in. It's one of the things that you can do with Raleigh, Durham, with all of them. Plans and blueprints. So you'll see that I have 30K up here. Not every house requires you to have an architect to come out. Like I'll do my own just on graph paper. Not every single one will require that. If you're just doing like a gut, if you're moving 2 or 3 walls, you can get an engineer letter to go along with that. That's all they look at. If you got the engineer letter to go along with it, but when you go over 30,000, you have to have it. Even if you're doing electrical, plumbing, you can still submit for a permit if you just did something on graph paper. You just have to have the license numbers of those folks. But once you go into that HVAC, you gotta now have an impervious survey. So impervious means that the survey company has to list and show where the HVAC is going to be located on that survey, where a patio is going to be located, where a shed is going to be located, fence, decks, whatever it is. That's why you have to get that type of survey. It's still the same survey. They just have to annotate those on that survey. So when it goes to permitting can see it. They say, okay, yep, it's going here, it's going there, it's within setbacks or whatever it is. And they say, okay, yes, approved. All right. So the setbacks are from if your house, say, is sitting in the center of the lot. So it's meaning that from the left or right side, how close can it be to that house? And then from front to back, how far from the street you have to be, and then how far from the backyard, if you're putting a fence back there. So it's just, those are your setbacks. All right, so blueprints and all, like I said, they have to go with your anything over 30,000. If you do not go in liensnc.com and submit and get and pay the 25 or 30 bucks or whatever it is, they will kick back your permit, your application. All right, so all it is just a little, it's someone like Chicago Title or one of these companies, and like I say, you pay 25, 30 bucks and they'll go ahead and prove your, I will tell you, I've done projects where they haven't even hit me on that. So I just think it's a money thing. That's just me, but whatever. It's government. All right, inspections. So these are some of the inspections that you definitely will need to make sure you have done on the house. Termite. I just did a house over in Knightdale. Well, not a house I did, a house that I was listing, that I was listing to sell. And we all got those things called those dirt, what do you call them? Dirt devils, dirt something. But anyways, they make the same type of tunnels that termites do. So of course, the inspector wrote it up, had to have a termite company come out, and I knew what it was. right? And there was no freaking termites because this house sits on a slab and there's no termites whatsoever. So now it's costing sellers $695 to have that treated. Second company came out and did the same thing, 600 something bucks to have it treated. So these things like this, just get them done ahead of time. You have a lot of companies that'll come out and do an inspection for you and they'll do it for free. With the premise of course, they're going to get the work, right? So, but get it done ahead of time because the last thing you want is for a home inspector to get out there and go up under your house or whatever and say, oh, you don't have any active termites, but they were here before, right? And as soon as the buyer hears termites, they want to run to the hills. And it's not that bad, to get termites taken care of. So just get that inspection done up front. Also, your GC or home inspector, or you can have a home inspection done on the house. But I will tell you that most GCs are lazy. They don't want to get underneath the house and do an inspection, right? So, so just have the professional, like say, home inspection, something like that, and have it done. Radon. People typically say that you don't need to have a radon inspection done when you have a basement, but I will tell you that's not correct because I've had houses that I've listed and they were going to sell, and I'm asking the broker, why are you doing radon? And it's a crawl space and they don't care, right? So depending on who the broker, if it's a good broker, they're going to have a radon test done on it. So once again, this bit me in the butt on a house. I was doing another house downtown Raleigh, and we had a basement on the house, and I love basement homes. And if any of you ever seen that stained concrete, it looks like a bowling ball, like a marble and all. It looks really, really nice. And so that's what I did in this house. I was so proud of it. It cost me like $4,000. I had extra money in the budget. I was like, yeah, this house is going to sell, no problem. I mean, it was beautiful. I get an offer on the house. I'm just cheesing, smiling ear to ear because I know it's going to sell. Radon test is done. We fail. Radon test is done again. We fail. Third time, we fail. So I contact a radon remediation company, and they came out, gave me a quote. It's like $1,000. I said, okay, go ahead, put the system in. I was like, what all you have to do? Oh, we have to come in here. We have to take this, things about this round. We have to take this thing. We have to drill down into your concrete. We have to go down like 2 feet. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You have to do what? And yeah, we got to come in here. I was like, what about my floor? It's like, oh, we'll cover your floor up, right? So they'll cover my floor, right? So they'll cover my floor, which they did, but they used something about this damn thick to cover my floor up. And every time they did something, they scratched my floor. Long story short, they got in there. I had to pay for the folks to come back out and recoat the floor. But the thing about it is that the complete house was gutted. And if I would have just took the time to install that radon unit before we closed the wall up, it would have been seamless because not only did I have this ugly pipe coming out of my floor, then the way it was routed, it had to route through my, through the actual outside of the house. And then I had this ugly pipe going up the side of my house, right? So then I had to paint and all that crap. But if we would have had it done beforehand, I could have ran it straight through the wall, up through the attic, right up through the roof, and been done with it. So if you're picking up a house, and this is for houses with basements, any house I do now, the same one I just did downtown, I put a radon unit in automatically. And when the buyers come in, you can see like this calm on their face when they know that it's a radon unit already in the house, and that the guy that out in the house took it upon himself to do it up front, right? So you'll get a lot of points with that if you do things ahead of time. So just try to budget that in, because that $1,000 radon unit probably ended up costing me about $3,000 because I had to pay again for them to treat the floors. All right, so just do stuff up front. Septic inspection, you definitely want to do that. This one here bit me in the ass. There we go, my cursing. This bit me in the ass over in Cary, right? I was doing a house, and I finished this house. I was going to put it on the market. My mother-in-law saw it. She was like, she wanted to rent it out. I said, well, it's not for rent. I'm selling the house. Old smarty pants, my wife, decided she wanted to buy the house for her mother, which she did. And I don't know if it's like a hindsight, one of those things like a blessing in hindsight, because right after she bought the house, 2 months later, the bathroom downstairs started backing up, right? Backing up from the septic tank. So backing up from the septic tank. So in the shower, I go down there and I see all this, you know what, right? And I'm like, man, you gotta be kidding me. So come to find out, one of the the lines in the leach field was cavitated. It wasn't working. There's two of them and I had to replace them. So once again, it's doing things ahead of time to where it won't bite you in the ass in the long run. And you want to do that. And the same token, that septic tank was was installed in the 50s. And so that house, when I got the house, it was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and I turned into a 4-bedroom, 3 bath. And so you know that septic tank, whenever you do that, the septic tank has to be able to support the house. And thank God it's only my mother-in-law and my father-in-law in there, but I know I'm going to have to replace it eventually. So being that I'm renting it, I don't worry about it right now, but eventually I'll have to. So once again, septic, the well inspection, you can get that done through Wake County. It's like $25-30. So don't pay a company to come out and test your water for the well. Just pay Wake County and Wake County come out and do it. And they'll do the test for you. All right. And same thing, even if a house that you're going to sell or it's any other house, you may not have like put a whole lot into it to flip it. You still want to have that inspection done because if they have a good broker, they're going to ask for it. So let's get it done. All right. So contractor and performance. And so this is when we start going through the selection process. So this is mainly why you guys came on tonight, I hope. But the selection process, and this is what's key, because all the other things that I just talked about previously, they will help you when it comes to this process, right? Because those are things that you can essentially do before you even get to this point to even know that if you need to contact the contractor, because if your numbers don't work, guess what? We're not going to do it, right? We're not going to do it. So labor. Right now in Raleigh, when I first started, it was about 10% of your rehab costs. Right now, contracts are charging anywhere from 20 to 40% of rehab costs. And the reason why they're doing that is because what? Because they can. Because they can right now, because everybody's flipping, everybody's building a new house. Materials right now are at an insane cost. I remember when I could pay like $2.50 or $3 for a 2x4, and I think I went in a few months ago and it was like $5, $6, $7. So everything's at a premium right now, right? So they're charging anywhere from 20 to 40% of rehab costs. So you got to make sure that that's going to fit within your budget, because not only are they charging 20 to 40% of rehab costs, they also sort of like put that in with materials too. So they're actually getting a little more than whatever they're charging you, because they're going to put a little bit more in materials if they got to pick it up for you, even though they don't. They have those whoever deliver it, but they're going to charge you for that. So these are questions that you want to ask to a contractor, and you want to make sure that you're seeing all the receipts or whatever it is. Like when I do products for, like, I'm doing one for a guy right now downtown, I literally give him all the receipts. I don't want to keep them. I give them all the receipts. But you have some contractors that don't have receipts, or they lose receipts, and then they just give you an invoice with their cost on it, right? And you got to go by what they say. No, demand receipts from your contractors, because that's another way how they can put money, try to put money in their pocket. And if you allow that, then you're actually paying more than, say, if you agreed on 30%, you're paying more than 30%. So I would not allow a contractor to do that to you if I were you. Contractors will not sign. Yeah, it's got to hit the highway. I'm sorry. If you won't sign my contract, I can't deal with you. So I've had several tell me this, and a couple guys, they were like excellent, and I wanted to work with them. But as soon as they told me they would not sign my contract, my red flags went up. And I said, I'll sign your contract. No, you got to go. Sorry. I don't care how much you like a contractor. Anyone that tells you they will not sign a contract is not someone that you should do business with. Period. All right. So, and I'm specifically talking to your general contractor, because I'm going to say something here in a minute that's going to shoot down what I just said. But just realize that you want to make sure contractors are signing contracts. You want to make sure that they have insurance. And when I say insurance with workman's comp. Because, for instance, like my company, like every single one of my guys that work for me, they're all 1099s. So I don't have employees. So I'm an exception to the workman's comp, because it's just me. I'm an exception. So that's what I mean by exception. So there's an exception to workman's comp if it's just you and your company, and you say you're outsourcing everything, right? Or not you, but your general contractor. 9 out of 10, most GCs don't outsource everything. But you want to check and make sure, because if that GC has employees, make sure their insurance has workman's comp on it. Double check that. Check their license. I can't tell you how many people that say they're contractors and they're not. That's the website. You can go right down the website. It's right up on Glenwood. I think they're right up on Creedmoor Road. And you can go up there if you want to. There's no need to, but they won't let you in now. But go to that website. You can look them up and you can check and see if they have an active license. If you have any questions, you can email them. Of course, referrals are always the best way. And incentives and chargebacks. So this is the way I work. So you can pay a contract an incentive, say if they have a 3-month project and you say, hey, look, if you can finish this in 8 weeks, you can give them a bonus or an incentive, right? I know contractors try to break their damn necks to get that done, but it's just for you, because when you can give them incentive, because if you have a hard money lender, you're paying carrying costs every single month. So the quicker they can get it done, if you can give them an extra $500, it's going to save you for that month if you had to pay $2,000, right? So if you can give them extra $500 to get done a month early, then guess what? Then you're ahead a little bit. So do have an incentive program, but do also have a chargeback program, because then you will have the opposite of that, of the guys that are slow and they're dragging it out. And make sure you never pay a contractor on hourly wage, because I did that stupid mess early on in my career too. But you can also charge back. You just need to agree with the contractor what that fee is going to be. I like to use $500. You can use $100 or whatever it is, but you can agree to that. Most contractors, they will not want to agree to that whatsoever. And my whole thing is, if you trust in your work and if you trust your people, then why wouldn't you? Right? So throw it back on them. So you can also charge back contract. It's not something that you have to do, because I'll tell you in a minute, like with my guys, I don't do it. I don't do a chargeback just because they've been working for me for 5 years plus or something like that. So I know them very well, and they don't BS on my project, so I don't have to worry about that. And then of course, removing contractors, I'm going to show you a lien waiver here in a minute. But you definitely want to make sure that you have some documentation if you have to fire a contractor, but you want to make sure you document it. So I told you on contracts that I was going to like contradict what I said. And the reason why I say that's because I have a guy that cleans out my crawl space, right? And I don't put a contract on him. But at the same time, what somebody would charge me $1,000 to do, he charged me $200. So it just depends. Like my tile guy, he does a great job, and I've been knowing him for like 6 years, and I don't put like a contract on him. But I will tell you, like my big ones, like my HVAC and plumbing and electrical guys, yeah, I could put contracts on them. Right. So it just for me, it's like my floor guy. My floor guy, I don't do like a contract with my floor guy. With those guys, they give me an estimate, and I get, of course, the invoice, and then we'll talk about taxes here in a minute. But starting out, like I said, you want to make sure that you're providing this to everyone. And I don't know, one day the guy that cleans out my crawl space and my tile guy, they could F me over, right? But I think I know them fairly well, that they won't do that. So, but just to, protect yourself, it's what you want to make sure you take oversight. So when this comes up, folks always say, oh, the general contractor, he has oversight. The general contractor does have oversight. However, I will tell you this, I treat my lender's money as if it's my money, right? So you have to do that, because if you don't, you're doing your lenders a disservice. So you, in the end, have oversight on your projects. I can't tell you how many times that a project has gone down the road, and this is a project that I do for someone else. And just this last weekend, the owner came over to the project and we had a wall or a closet that wasn't in the space where he wanted. So we moved it, right? Because we don't have drywall up on the wall. But if you don't go to your project and you say, because I got a general contractor and he's taking care of everything, and you go to your projects 2 months down the road, and even though everything looked good on your plans, and then you go into the house and you're like, oh, this room is too damn small, or this or that, I want this moved. Guess what you're going to pay? You're going to pay a change order fee. So make sure, especially if you're gutting a house and they're framing, you need to make sure you go by that house, because if you don't, you will screw yourself. You're not screwing the contractor because he's gonna charge you for it, but you will screw yourself, especially when drywall goes up on the wall, and you're gonna screw yourself over. So just make it a habit, not, just because you have a contract, you say, oh, I'm not gonna go. So if you can, I know folks work and some are working from home and, with COVID, but if you can go by the house, on a Friday, if you coordinate with your contractor, or every couple of weeks. But after you've been working with someone for a while, like some of us has, like I know, like I can go on vacation. I don't have to worry about it. I do have like one framing guy who I think he drinks a little too much tequila sometimes, and I got a wall that's lean or something. But and I can tell when they've been out drinking that night. But for the most part, I don't have to like look over their shoulder. But until you have a comfort with a contract, and I would tell you almost never get comfortable with them. But you want to make sure that you have oversight. It rests with you in the end, bottom line. All right, so W-9 form, some of you may have filled this out for your employer. Some of you may already have your folks filling this out, but this is critical. So you saw in the beginning of my overview, I said 6 critical documents, so we'll go over those. W-9 form, I mean, it's self-explanatory. The IRS has a sheet for instructions and all, but you want to make sure that that your folks are filling this out, and that you're verifying too, because you will have some workers that don't have a social security number, and they use an EIN number, but you need to verify that EIN number that is correct. So verify the EIN number on whatever card they give you, and that it's correct, because in the end, you file this form to the IRS and you're off by 1 digit, and you think you're going to get counted. That's going to count for you to be able to deduct that. And guess what? 2-3 years down the road, you're getting audited. So verify, verify, verify. I put some dates up here. So most of us give our guys 1099 miscellaneous forms, so you can see the date. Those other 2 dates for the other forms. The first date is February 28th. That's if you're doing it by paper. The second date is electronically. I would think it need to be reversed, but IRS says otherwise. You need more time if you're doing it electronically, I guess. So that's the IRS's take on it. Anything $600 or more, same thing. You don't have to, but if you want to claim it, you need to have a W-9 form. Now, like, I will have like a company come in and do like maybe some iron rod, what's that, railing or something like that on the house. I did one downtown Durham. They charged me like $2,300. I didn't give them a W-9 form, but my CPA was able to expense that. So check with your CPAs. You want to find out what they want you to do. So just make sure you check with them. I'm not telling you that you don't need it, but I know I can expense that. So just make sure anything $600 or more, you got a W-9 form. General liability with this insurance indemnification. So general liability, this is what, not only what the contractor needs to have, but you yourself. So if you have a company, you should have general liability on your company. If you go into the banks, they're going to ask you for it, or whatever you're doing, they're going to ask you for it. They mentioned earlier that I'm doing like federal, state, and local stuff. The first question out their mouth is, I need to see a general liability, right? I can't even bid on the contract unless I got general liability. Where's your workman's comp? So I always got to tell them every time with workman's comp, okay, so you don't need it. And then of course the owner, so whoever your lender is, they're going to require that you also carry insurance. And it's not just standard State Farm homeowners insurance. It's a vacant homeowner insurance and policy or something to that effect, that where you're covered. Typical regular insurance policies, if that home is vacant for more than 30 days and something happens, you are not covered. And I hate to see you have to pay back all that money to your lender and to get another house fixed. It's not going to happen. So make sure you have your lender listed on as additionally insured. Trust me, I will tell you 10 out of 10 lenders know to tell you to make sure you have your insurance. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about forgetting that, because the lender's going to let you know. But just make sure that your insurances are good. I won't put that out there, but there are companies online so where you can get insurance through. So just probably in companies through TREIA. So if they're vendors, but just double check out there for your insurance. Oops. All right, sorry about that. All right, payment schedule. All contractors want to know, how are you going to pay me, right? All contractors want money up front. When I first started, I wouldn't give a contractor a freaking dime up front. I wouldn't give them a dime. And most folks still don't. Like, even now, I don't give contractors money up front. However, this type of market we're in, a contractor can pick and choose where they go. They don't have to work with me, you, or anyone else, right? So they can pick and choose. But when I first started, I had contractors telling me they wanted 50% up front. And I was like, well, you can kiss my 50%, you know what, right? That's just not going to happen. So I don't care. I don't know you or anything like that. But like now, like my HVAC guy, I will give him the money for materials, right? Materials. My plumbing guy, same thing. My electrician, he gets his own materials. They all get 60% of whatever for rough in inspection. But I know HVAC stuff costs a lot, right? So, but I typically will not do that. You know, when I was first starting, I just would not. But now, when I started, I wasn't general contracting. When I got licensed, then I understood why they were asking for money. However, I just still couldn't figure out why they were asking for 50%, right? Because me, I'm thinking you're going to run off with my money. So now being on the other side, I would say, yeah, I would do 10% if I was hiring someone else. Because I know from this side, a contractor, if you're working with them, if they literally have to hold like everything themselves. So they would have to go out, get the materials, and they would have to pay the labor, and they would have to do all these things. However, from this side, I do know that even as a contractor, not with me, but I know with other contractors, the people that they've had working for them, they ran out and left them high and dry because they paid them out of pocket, right? So, and then they paid them out of pocket, and then the investor stiffed them. And so it's just one of these things where it's like, you as an investor, you got to figure out what's the smart thing to do. Most folks will teach you, no, don't do it, but you have to make that decision. I would literally tell you right now, I'll say, yeah, don't do it. However, I know from from this side, I know now, like, now I see why guys ask for money, but I wouldn't do any more than 10%. If I had to do it, I wouldn't do any more than that. So one of the other things you could do too is buy their materials. So if they don't have the money, don't give them the money for the materials, because you may have someone say, oh, well, materials are this. Well, okay, fine. Where are you getting it from? Good. Okay, I'll buy it for you. And that way you control your costs too, because now a contract's not marking up your materials of what he's going to buy. So that's another thing you can do. But just depends on what you want to do your business. If you want to get out of being a technician and doing all this stuff and you want to turn everything into your contractor, that's fine. Just make sure you have a good relation with them and you've been working with them for, I would almost say a year before I would turn anything over. But I'm not turning anything over financially, I can tell you that. If I have an account, like I have an account at BMC, J&K, some of the places where I have an account at, I'll say, okay, yep, go over and use my account. Even if they're using my account, I can still control the cost because I know what's being spent at that facility. And I can make sure they're not getting anything they're not supposed to be getting. So there's just little things like that that you can do also. So that's the initial payment. You will, a lot of contractors, and I'm not sure recently since I don't use them, but before, a lot of contractors didn't like working with folks that were using hard money because you got to get a draw inspection and you got to wait for the draw inspection. You got to wait for hard release the money, and then they have to wait for the money to be released by the investor. So, when you're initially talking to a contractor, it's one of these things. It's what was that policy? I almost have like a don't ask, don't tell policy, right? So it's like if you're going through your payment schedule and you're setting up milestones and benchmarks and when you can pay them and all, that's fine. Leave it at that. If a contract doesn't ask you, hey, most of them don't know to ask anyways if you have private HELOC or hard money lender or whatever it is. But if you have a good contractor and then you get all the way through the whole process and then, the thing about payments come up and then you can say, hey, look, I know we scheduled the payment for this date. However, I have to have an inspection before I can release payment because they need to verify that your work is good. Any good contractor shouldn't have a problem with that, right? So just always let them know, hey, I need to have an inspection done first. And then if they ask you why, I say, oh, well, my lender requires it. Boom. Now you're not being dishonest, but I just don't provide information if I don't have to. That's just me. 203K rental loan. I just did one of these for a lady. And the 203K rental loan, they're normally tied to like a FHA can do them, or USDA or something like that. They can do a lot of these are the rehabilitation loans. So I had a lady that came to me on this loan right here, and I almost didn't want to do it because I know sometimes the pain in the butt, you got to go through draws, you got to do everything up front out of your pocket because you're dealing with a bank. So that I can't go to that person and say, hey, I want 10%, because it doesn't work that way. So I was dealing with a bank out of Virginia, and I was like, oh, here we go. Let me do this. And she was like, hey, look, the other contractor, he said he wasn't making enough money, so he bailed on me because he said he can make more money in Raleigh right now, which he can. Right. So it was $29,000 to replace like doors, windows, like real simple stuff. I was only making like 4 to 5 grand out of it. I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. Do the draws with the bank, the whole 9 yards. I gave them all my insurance, everything. But in turn, what happened with this is that I completed this project in like, I projected 2 months. I finished it in 4 weeks. But what happened with this was the lady that I did this for, I've gotten 4 other projects from that right now. So building 2 townhouses, building a single family in Garner, doing 1 downtown right now in Raleigh, and did a Wake Forest project. So that's what came from that, just because I wasn't like these other contractors that was trying to price gouge and wanted to just get everything up front. And that's what came from that, right? So, you know, sometimes, like I said, it's always not about the money with a contract. And if you can run into a contractor like that, then you might have a good person, right, that you can deal with. It's not always all about the money. And then having your final punch list. So this punch list is exactly that. You're not going to punch in walls or anything like that. You're going over with the contract and you want to verify all the work. So if you got drywall imperfections and need paint touch up, you know, looking at your floors or whatever it is, you want to be able to annotate that on this punch list, and it needs to be done. You're not giving them final payment yet, right? But you want to make sure this is done before you give final payment. So always make sure you get that punch list done. All right, so this lien waiver. This lien waiver is going to be one of the last things you do with the contractor. All right, so why? Of course, you know, lawsuits. You know, contractors saying, oh, they didn't get paid, or sub saying they didn't get paid or something like that, may want to sue you. And you got this document here that can throw up BS on it. 203K loans. I just told you I was working with a bank. Every time I got 2 draws on this, and I had to send in a lien waiver every single time, right? The bank had their own, so I had to send in the lien waiver. And then of course, when, you know, at completion of the project is when you want to do this. 203K draws, 203K loans, they're required. And then some hard money lenders also require a draw every single time. That not that you have to get a draw, but every single time that, say if I'm the let me take that back. Say if I'm the contractor, and they would require you to get a draw every single time, and that's like $400 to $500 that you're going to have to pay for an inspection. Also, I have to, as a contractor, wait on that, right, for you to get that inspection done before I'm going to get my money. And it's not even just me; it's also with you, the investor, because you're going to have probably money out of your pocket that you've done also on something, right, that you have to take care of, because you may have, say, paid the contract out of your pocket, and now you're waiting on the HML to pay you back. It goes a lot of different ways with this, but it's just things that you just want to be cognizant of. But this lien waiver, and that document I was just showing you before, that punch list, you do not give a final check to anyone without them signing this. If they will not sign your unconditional lien waiver, then I'm sorry, but I can't give you this check. Because if you don't want to sign it, that's telling me that you may want to do something down the road that's unscrupulous, right? But any good contractor, trust me, they're going to want their money. They're going to sign your lien waiver. But please, please, if you didn't hear anything else that I'm saying, always make sure, and I'll send this one to Leslie, but just make sure that you get a lien waiver signed by the contractor, always. All right, so make sure you have an independent contract agreement. So you need to, if you're not working with an attorney or someone like that, or something you can write up yourself, make sure you tailor a contracts agreement, something similar to where you're talking about these things over here on the left, right? So your general description, cost terms, inspections, cleanup, who's going to clean up. Cleanup is like, you go to some of these job sites, and these guys live like slobs, right? And they think your house is a trash can. But you need to make sure they clean up because you never know who can come in your house. I sold a house downtown Raleigh and it was gutted. It looked horrible, horrible. But guess what I didn't have to do? I didn't have to put it on the market. The house was clean. I had some folks come into that house and they saw it. They weren't your typical buyers because they could see through all the, the house being gutted. They could see through all that and they could see the end picture, right? So make sure your houses stay clean because you never know who's coming in, even though they shouldn't have been in my freaking house because my insurance didn't cover them. However, they're the ones that bought the house from me. So just, and that leads me to another thing. So let me talk about something else real quick. So for pre-sales, right? So that couple that I was referring to, so they came to my house, they want to do a pre-sale. And I said, fine, but anything that you want to do that I'm not doing, guess who has to pay for it? You do. They were in total agreement. That was a house where I had a air conditioning unit that was, I think it was 11 or 12 years old. And where it was sitting in the house, sitting on the outside of the house, I was going to leave it. And they asked me, was I going to leave it? I said, yep. And the guy said, no, I need to get rid of that because I'm putting my hot tub here and I want to put it on a slab. I said, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm leaving it here. He said, no, don't worry about it. I'll pay for it. Okay. So an $8,000 unit put on the house. And I said, you do realize that if you don't buy the house, that I'm not reimbursing you for the air conditioning. Yep, I got it. Okay. The guy drove 2 Teslas, right? Him and his wife drove 2 Teslas. So he didn't have a problem with it, but it was that. It was a couple other things they wanted to change around. So, and I know I got off track a little bit, but anytime you have somebody come in your house for a pre-sale, you make them give you a sizable deposit. So if they back out, you keep that deposit. I didn't have to do it in his house because they bought an HVAC and they ended up buying something else for the house. And I'm like, well, they're already out. Like, I think they were already out, like, going to be 15 grand. So if they backed out the house, so I didn't require it. But you always want to make sure you get a sizable deposit. And I will literally maybe let them change 1 or 2 things. That's what I did. It was the we didn't do granite. We did whatever quartz. So you really don't want to have them making a whole lot of change in the house because literally I use like the same materials for every single house is what I do. But just make sure over here on your left, like I said, inspections, clean up. I got inspections twice. Oh, look at that. And change orders. So you want to make sure change orders, same thing, because if you have to change something, you won't know what it's going to cost you, right? So, but if you're keeping track of your project, you shouldn't run into that issue. And then more on cancellation penalties, warranty. So if you're going to provide a warranty on your house, you need to work with a warranty company to do that. With my houses, even though I'm going through and doing everything, I make sure, and I go by the real estate contract, and the real estate contract says that if somebody buys my house, they're buying it as is, right? But if someone has an issue with it, with the house, and if I tell the contractor, hey, look, you need to put a warranty on this, so you need to have a warranty. Most contractors, if it's a new construction, they have this standard warranty. For rehabs, it's a little different. Most contractors, I don't want to say most, but a lot of ones I know will not put a warranty on a renovated house. So, but if Leslie or Jackie, someone out there's working one that will do. Anyways, all right, and then special stipulations. I wanted to cover this real quick because typically this was the last thing always on the contract, and I never really paid attention to it. I didn't pay attention to it until February when they shut the country down, right? COVID. So special stipulation, because I can't in good faith, if a contractor tells me he can't come to work for 2 months and then I say, well, I'm going to charge you a chargeback fee. So in your special stipulations, you may be, this is generic, but you may want to be a little bit more detailed now if you're going to do a special stipulation section because of the times that we're in right now. And I guess COVID is going back up in a lot of different places. So so just be aware of that special stipulations that things that you're not going to be able to put on a contract and make a contract to do, because if a contract tells you, hey, I don't feel safe going to your house, and guess what? You're not going to go in the house, right? And I will tell you that, and it's a sidebar, I've been tested 7 times for COVID. I just did another one last week because my freaking subcontractors don't wear masks. None of them. I think I only have 2 guys that wear a mask. So whenever I go to the house, and my wife, she's like always on my back, right? So I just go and get tested. So it's just one of those things, what we live in. So, but like I said, I don't have that problem with guys not coming to work. I would, if they're sick, like I had one guy that was sick, and he didn't come to work, but I was calling him for an estimate, and then he finally got on the phone and he was coughing, sneezing real bad. I said, man, you got COVID? He goes, oh, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? I said, go get tested. He's like, oh, I can't. Like, what do you mean you can't? He's like, trust me, I can't. I said, okay, I left it alone, right? Because I knew why he couldn't. But he's like, I just make my wife and daughter wear a mask and all around the house. And I'm like, oh my God, what if I just went down there to the house and, so, but anyways, that's enough of that in my COVID story. I got one more, but I'll leave it at that. But
Listen to your wife, Lionel.
say again?
I said, just make sure you listen to your wife.
Oh, I do.
Oh, yeah.
All righty, folks. So that is my spiel, and
It's your spiel.
got my share.
Okay,
Have
I
some
got a quick
questions
question
for-
here, Lionel, that came into the chat that says, it's from Nathaniel. He asked, do you put a radon unit in straight away and just not do the test?
Yep, that's exactly what I do. I put
That's
the
what you
radon
do.
unit in right away, and I don't pay for a test because I don't. At that point, the company I use guaranteed it. So just put it that way. They guarantee that I will pass any radon test. So if I have an issue, they'll come back. But I've never, to this day, knock on this desk here, never to this day had to go back and do any changes to that radon unit. But I put it in automatically just because it just makes more sense.
This makes more sense. Thank you.
Kat O'Hannigan asked, what is a chargeback?
So a chargeback is if you're a contractor and you tell me you're going to be done in 2 months, and now we're at 2 months and 1 week, I'm going to charge you $500 for that 1 week you're over. Now you're at 2 months and 2 weeks, charge you another $500. 2 months and 3 weeks, and charge you. So I'm charging you $500 every single week you're over. Now that's a little maybe exorbitant. You can do $100, but every week they're over, when they tell you, then I charge them back, unless they come to me and they say, hey, look, I'm running into this situation. We can't get materials for X, Y, and Z for 2 weeks. Then I won't do it. But if it's just that they're BSing most of the time, and then they're going to tell me, oh no, because you do have contracts that are trying to do 3 or 4 other jobs, and they may take a week off from your job. All right, got you. That week's going to cost you.
Krishna Sadai asked, what is the best way to find a contractor, subcontractor, handyman?
So my best way for me, like I had in there, is referrals. But I mean, you can use, I would personally tell you, is like just referrals, word of mouth. Of course, you got a good resource right here, just in TREIA, but you can go like Angie's and all. Don't go to Craigslist. But I'll tell you, I've done some things on Craigslist, but I would tell you most of the time that most of those guys were bullshitters.
Go to the Facebook networking page and ask. There will be a lot of people.
You'll get
who-
recommendations
In
all
fact,
day
that
long.
question has been asked there a few times, so you could even go look up the answer.
Yeah.
Michael Scheidel says, thank you, you did a great job. Nathaniel Mott says, I listened to a Bigger Pockets podcast with a GC that said there shouldn't be any unforeseen expenses when you walk through the house with your contractor and they give you a quote. Is this true from your experience? If there are unforeseen expenses, is that when you have them file a change order? Did you say the GC should be charged a fee when they file a change order?
Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say charge a fee. I don't, to me personally, I don't subscribe to that any unforeseen issues or anything like that, because I've been doing this long enough to tell you that shit happens, right? It happens. So you can't never say no unforeseen issues, because it happens. I had a house, Durham, close to Duke. We finished the floors. We did everything. Floors, everything went back together. It looked beautiful. I went into the house the next day. My floors were doing this. They weren't level. What the hell happened overnight, right? my floors were not level. I had to pay $3,000 for my guy Carmelo to come in and level the house out. And I didn't see it, and we didn't see it because that was a house where it was not always clean, but things do happen. I'm just going to tell you, things happen. And
I would never trust anyone who said that you'll never have an unforeseen circumstance. That's,
No,
that's
never.
Somebody that's
that's-
never
that's
rehabbed
crazy
a house.
sauce.
yeah,
there's a reason.
never.
There's a reason, me personally, why I don't flip in Durham anymore, because every single house I did in Durham, all of my copper was gone every single time. That's an unforeseen issue, right? They wash the house and they go in there and they cut all my damn copper out of the house. And I'm telling you, my house is like 90% done. I had holes in my walls, all kind of crap. So no, I don't, I'm sorry, I don't subscribe to that.
So Manny Dakiné is asking, how much do you allot for rewiring a fuse panel?
So it depends on the size of the house. I'll tell you that the most I paid to get a house rewired is $7,000. The cheapest I paid is $3,000. So it just depends on the size of the house.
That's all I got. Anyone else have any other questions?
I've got one from Garima. She wants to know, why would you need a survey for an HVAC? And is that if you're just replacing an HVAC system, or is that like a new build?
Oh, there goes Leslie. So we've had some of the same experiences, and I'll answer then. I guess Leslie give her.
And Lionel, while you're doing that, do you have a slide with your contact information? Couple people are asking for your contact information too.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll put in the chat here in a second. They can have it. What was I going to say? So with HVAC, and whoever asked that question, I don't know what city you're in, but every city is different. With Raleigh, they're like criminal now. Every little thing they want listed on a survey. So, and then that's when you fall into the impervious, right? So say if like my personal home right now, if I had to do a change out on the HVAC, I just pay a company, they can come on and do it. But if I'm flipping a house and I want to replace an HVAC, a survey is required in the city of Raleigh.
They will not give you a permit without it.
Exactly.
They
So
will
that's why I
not.
was telling you, like, one of my little ninja tricks now is to say, okay, if I need a permit, let me go and permit the house and everything else, and I permit the HVAC separately once I get
Separately.
my survey.
Yeah. What impervious is, Lionel, is, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's how much of the entire lot ground of the house is taken up by things that don't allow water to penetrate through them, which makes them impervious to water. So you're only allowed, I believe, it's 27%, Lionel, at least it was 27% of the entire lot.
Yeah, and they change so much. It's just
Yeah, the last time I pulled one, but it's 27%. So what they do is your surveyor will take every little bit. It's your HVAC unit, a shed, a deck, even though decks lets water through it, it doesn't matter. A gravel driveway, they consider impervious. How bunch of crap is that?
Yep.
Concrete, your sidewalks, anything that is not dirt, they consider impervious, and they will add up all those little spaces, and you're only allowed to have, I think it is 27% of the entire lot of the house is allowed to be impervious. Otherwise, they won't let you do it.
Yep. And also, if you're so whatever city or whatever cities that you guys are planning flipping out, make sure you get on their registry or give them their email, because they will send out periodic emails basically telling you how they're going to screw you, right? So Raleigh, I get these emails all the time. So Raleigh now, they're coming up with this new plot plan or whatever now.
Oh, I got that one today.
Yeah, and then there's something else too. So, and same with Durham. So make sure you go to the planning department or wherever and get on their email list, because they'll send you emails when things are going to change, and it can affect how long you're waiting for a permit. So make sure you do that.
Okay, got another question from Garima. How much have you paid for polypipe repiping? And specifically, if it's a 1,300 square foot, 2-story house?
Oh, 2-story?
Sorry.
Ask
Sorry.
are all the walls open? I want to know if the walls open, because you got to do demo.
Yeah.
So, I know she wants me to answer, give her exact number, but I normally have my my electrician come out of not my electrician, my
Plumber.
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 My plumber will come out and give the exacts on that, because he needs to look at it. I don't know if she has all the PVP in there or if there's something else mixed in with it. But the plumber's gonna accurately give you that. But I will tell you this, like, for a full, it doesn't matter if that stuff's in there. Normally for a 1,300 square foot house, I would not pay any more than like $6,000 or $7,000 to have that whole thing redone. It doesn't matter what's in there. Now, you also got the PVP in there, but as long as that PVP has the copper fittings around it, it's actually good, believe it or not. It's good as long as you have that around it, but it's got to have the copper rings around it that's holding it onto the fitting. As long as you have that, you don't have to replace it.
Technically.
Technically.
Because it leaks at the fittings, right? I mean,
And that's what I say, technically you don't have to, but you want to get it out there because it could affect, the sale of the property and all that.
It most likely will affect, if you've got polybutylene piping in your house, most likely, almost 100% sure it's going to affect the sale of your piping, because the home inspector is going to put the fear of God into the buyer, saying the house is going to flood next week or the week after they buy the house because of the polybutylene, which has probably been there for 25 years and there's never been an issue.
although I will say that depends on the ARV of the house, because I've done 3 in the last year and a half where the ARV was 250 and below, and they've all had poly pipes. And it was all disclosed, and I had multiple offers on 2 of them. Wasn't an issue with any. So I think it's.
Then you've had intelligent buyers.
Or
Yeah.
did they have a home inspection, Jackie?
Oh, they did. Oh, they
Yeah.
did.
Then
It's
you
just
have
that,
intelligent buyers. Yeah. That's it. That's the
One
difference.
last question from Moni Peoples. What is the website you said to go to so you can receive changes?
City of Raleigh.
Oh yeah, the city, it's development services. Development service with the city of Raleigh. Or Durham.
And-
It's just planning. If you go to any city, Raleigh, Durham, wherever, Chapel Hill, it's their
There's
planning
the
department.
city website.
Yes,
It's
plan.
usually .org
And
Yep.
Lionel, put your contact info in the chat.
information in the chat.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Don't you think we should get Lionel back for like a Saturday session? You need Lionel.
I think you'd prefer to probably do it when it's a live in person, right, Lionel?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we're working towards it. We're getting there.
There's one thing that I just wanted to add there, Lionel. I know that the city of Raleigh or town of Cary and the town, getting permits is a big pain in your side. The one thing that people mustn't forget to investigate is if there are HOAs, because those can really get up your nose.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you know what the covenants is and any rules that they have about changing it from white to cream or whatever they decide is important. Just make sure you know what the HOA are requiring as well.
Mhm. That's it, I think. Is that all questions, everybody?
That's it.
Alrighty, Lionel's information is in the chat there. Write it down.
Speak now,
Write it
everyone.
down before we're done.
All right, Miss Karen.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Lionel, that was fantastic. I think people are either scared out of their minds or very inspired, but I think that if you, you've got his email address, if you want any, the only way you're going to learn is by asking the right people the right questions and find the right person. All of those forms that Lionel put up there, they look very scary, but if get a hold of your attorney, get a hold of more experienced rehabbers, and they can walk you through it, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're driving a car without a license. You want to be able to know how these things work, and there are lots of people on TREIA to ask. So don't be afraid. That's it. Thank you, Lionel. Really appreciate your
Thanks,
time.
Lionel.
Thanks,
Great,
Lionel.
great, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Stay safe.
Peace.
Peace out.